This is a 2001 Lexus GS430 L-Tuned Edition, and I'm going to be showing you how to change the alternator easily. Before we get started, I want to give you a quick tip. If you're looking to replace the alternator, don't go to Advanced Auto Parts and buy a cheap CarQuest alternator. That is why I'm replacing mine for the second time. I went to a place like car-part.com and it found my local junkyard, which routed me to a low mileage Lexus SC430, which had the same alternator in it, and I got it for $85. So we'll just go ahead here and remove this air duct using a 10mm ratchet. Pull that away. Oh, yes it is, baby. But first things first, before we touch anything, we have to disconnect the battery. I lost her. With the battery terminal disconnected, we'll go right for the fans and their mounting hardware. So we've got 10mm bolt, 10mm bolt, 10mm bolt, which mine is missing here, and we have some along the bottom. After removing the screws that secure the fans to the radiator, make sure that you utilize the fluid draining plug that you have here on your Lexus and drain some of the coolant out, because we'll need to remove the top hose to get the fans out. As well as the hoses, we'll be removing the radiator overflow tank by these two 10mm bolts right here. Mechanics in a nutshell. This hose here on the upper right side, driver's side, is the one you'll want to remove. Vice grips are often better than a regular pair of pliers for a few reasons. You can just leave them on, is the main one. Let's see, this is trouble. Use vice grips. As you can see, before draining anything out at all, we already have a little bit of leakage here. What you are seeing here is distilled water come out. This car has a very active coolant leak, which I am searching for at the moment while working on it. We'll be putting Toyota Red back in here soon. Oh, don't do that with your coolant. Disconnect the electrical plugs. There's two of them. Bottom left side of the fan. Push in right there and push hard and separate. Now that those are disconnected, we'll disconnect this little hose. Last thing we need to do is remove this box out of the way, and then the fans should come right out. 10mm bolts everywhere. Next, we'll grab the proper size nut and we will release the tension on the belt and take the belt off. Using a 15mm socket and a breaker bar. Pull counterclockwise, and when the belt is loose, just pick it up off of one of the pulleys. With the belt off of one of the pulleys, now we can remove the entire belt from the entire engine assembly. Place a large extension in between the hole of the power steering pulley and kind of lodge it up against the metal of the power steering. Take yourself a breaker bar with an extension on it and turn counterclockwise to loosen the bolt. That's two strikes. If this is your first time doing the job, you'll need a pulley removal tool probably to get this off. The alternator sits in the car like this. You can see that the mounting bolts are here, here, and here. You have an electrical connector there, as well as one in the back. This is the alternator as it appears in the car. You can see all three 14mm bolts on the right side. Coming from the top end with a breaker bar, a small extension, and a 14mm socket, as well as an extender breaker bar, I'm easily able to break the torque. I love being an top, side, bottom. So now we can slide this forward by wiggling it some and access the 12mm bolt on the other side, as well as the electrical plug. I'm gonna do that from the bottom, I think. There it is. The nut is hidden up underneath this rubber bolt here. I've got a lot of stuff going on there, so we'll have to investigate. Flex head ratchet wrenches are good for reasons just like this. There it is. We'll put that one over there because we know it was on that side. There's the same bolt right there, we see that the electrical plug is on the back side right next to it. So we're going for that next. And there it is. With a tight squeeze and a wiggle and a switch of the hands. So I've got a bigger problem here. For some reason, this has completely fried out and severed the copper wire from the connector to the alternator. So I'm gonna repair this. If you guys know what's causing this sort of thing, please let me know in the comments. As we hit a bit of a snag right here, we've got a broken ground wire that goes to the alternator and to the relay box. It's $94. I found it at Lexus for. I think it's an employee discount because I know the guy. Otherwise, it was $164. You can also go to LKQ and pull this part. Probably get it for like anywhere between $10 and $30. In my understanding, it's only a couple bolts. That's probably what I'm going to do. But right now, first, I'm just going to remove the wire because I cannot fix the head of it. There are two plastic clips. There's one right there and one down there. I did end up getting in there, twisting and getting it out. It did not break, but it was not healthy. I've done this next part before, so next I'm gonna remove the 3 bolts from right here. Bam, bam, and bam. And this bolt as well. And I'm going to try to raise this up and try to pull the wire out from the bottom and see what happens. This is crucial. Do not have your battery hooked up. Also, make sure you don't break these free using an impact wrench. I used a ratchet first. Go ahead and get this clip out while we can. There are 5 clips down there, plus there is another conduit of sorts. Actually, don't need to remove that large conduit down there. I was actually able to start picking up on this ground wire, and by pressing or depressing these tips right here, or these tabs, I was able to separate the wire from the relay box. So I can't make it to LKQ today. I have to do this. I need my car running for work. So I have mounted this head to a vice grip, and I am drilling through the remaining copper strands right here. I will open this back up and then re-crimp it all back down on new wiring. That's the best I can do. Sorry for the shitty camera. So this is what I got. I'm gonna go ahead and put this together. I have filed it. I've hit it with QD electrical cleaner. I have trimmed up the copper here, got it on the vise, got it all bent out properly and ready to crimp in. Okay, this is the final repair. This is what's going back in the car. Wrapped in electrical tape. We've even got the conduit wrapped back around it underneath, so it's got a little bit of heat protection. Not really worried about this melting. Hopefully this regular electric tape's okay. If I have any problems, I know what my problem is. So I filed this down. It's good, bent it back in place. We're gonna go ahead and give it a go. Do everything in reverse order. Straight down through this way. Make sure both teeth go in. This connector is next. Just like that. Now our wire runs from the fuse box, relay box, down here just above next to the motor mount. We can see that there's another clip right there. I wasn't able to record it, but this connector is in zip tie fashion, so you just gotta slide it, wrap it around and slide it through the bottom and push. Here's the final clip. And that's in. Hang the alternator on the top bolt. Put the nut on the top bolt and give it just a couple threads. You want to leave a little bit of wiggle room for the alternator for installation. Seeing this seat down in here makes me feel very good. We both broke our clip here, the one that comes right off of the alternator. It should mount into that hole right there. Try not to break yours. It's nice to have these. Now for the electrical pigtail connector, it never hurts to use a little bit of QD electrical cleaner on this prior to connecting it. Now that the electronics are done, onto those pesky bolts. Go ahead and reinstall the 2 side bolts. And then we'll torque everything down. I need to verify maybe go back and rewatch the footage, but the alternator out of the 2002 SC430 has a third bolt on it, and there's not a third bolt. There's only 2 bolts that were holding in the alternator that came out of this, I believe. So I'll go back and rewatch the footage, but I'm just going to replace the bolt behind this and then put the 2 mounting bolts in. What you see in the center of the screen is the bolt I'm referring to. It was the far right side mounting bolt, I thought. So I'm replacing it now and then mounting the alternator. Goodness. The alternator mounted in place, this bolt is not being used. It's secured neatly back behind it, and there is no gaps in between the top and the bottom here. So this alternator's securely mounted. It is from an SC430. I guess they're a little bit different. I don't know. You guys tell me in the comments, but we're going to find out. It matched the amperage, so we're going for it. Here we are. Now with the 12mm wrench, go back to the back of your alternator and tighten up the plug that we fixed, the ground wire. I'm using a flex head ratchet wrench. Works the best. With the alternator torqued down, it's time to replace the power steering pulley, and we're also going to resecure the relay box up here. We want the rounded end to be sticking out. Give it the old leverage one too. Ooga dooga. Nice and tight. Now we'll replace the 10mm bolts for the ECU relay box. Wear gloves. Now that the alternator and its components are all hooked up and the power steering pulley is back on, we're going to go ahead and install the belt prior to putting back on the fans. There it is again for you, just in case you need to see it. You can pause the video. With a 6.15mm socket and my breaker bar installed onto the tensioner, I'll go ahead and turn it counterclockwise to relieve the tension and stretch the belt across the top pulley. Make sure that the belt is fully secured and on all of the grooves of the pulleys. Release the tension and inspect the belt again to make sure that everything is sat properly. Dropping the cooling fans back in is easy when everything's moved out of the way. I'm going to do this one-handed with my phone in my hand, and I'm still going to watch out for the radiator fins as I'm going down. There it is. Install the remaining, I believe, 6 bolts that are 10mm onto the top and bottom of the radiator and plug the plugs back in at the bottom. Now that all 6 bolts are installed, come down to the driver's side and plug in the fans. There's 2 electrical connectors, 1 for each fan. Don't forget to take advantage of the nifty clips that Lexus gives you to keep everything nice and neat, unless they're broken. Looking good. Next thing to do is to replace the overflow tank. I kept my overflow tank bolts in their respective holes. I think that's a smart idea and made it easy for reinstallation. Again, it's very important not to torque these down with an impact. This bolt's for the air vent. This is a special little component. Don't break that nipple. I should have installed this prior to installing the fans. I'm going to try to force it on there, but I don't recommend you do that. I'm actually able to force it on very easily, so I absolutely recommend you do that. Probably the most difficult part of the entire job, installing the upper coolant hose. No, you can't squeeze that with your hand. Pliers do work, but vice grips are best. These are channel locks. I'm sorry. This is always the best part about working on cars, putting back on the airbox. Airbox is pretty trashed, but this is all the same and very easy. Just first hook on the hose, and when you get the hose hooked on here, tighten down the clamp. Make sure you plug in your MAF and route your MAF wire through that little connector right there. Then attach 1, 2, 3 bolts. I've got some ugly exposed wires on my MAF, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this in electrical tape. Much better. Now we'll lay this in here, secure it down within the clip, take this, and plug our MAF straight in. The battery is hooked back up, the airbox is put back in, everything is reassembled. Now we're taking a final look around the car and removing any tools that are underneath the hood and making sure that the engine is free and clear. There's nothing around the belt or any tools stuck in here at all. It's very important. We're also confirming that there are no extra bolts anywhere. We don't have any extra bolts or any extra parts. Everything is back on the car. Now I'm fairly sure that the battery is already dead, but we're going to find out. If it is, we'll go ahead and hit it with our jump starter. Oh, close. All right. This is the Fox Speed jump starter. It's 1000 amps, 12 volts. This thing does the job. If you don't have one of these, I'll pop a link down in the description, but this thing is sweet. You should always have one of these in your car. Simply hook the two terminals up, make sure that the power is turned on, and press the power button. You'll see that we have power there, and we're going to go ahead and try to fire her up. Here we go. Although we know this will work. Let's go. Time for a voltage test. First thing we'll do is give the car a little bit of juice. I'm gonna go ahead and pop on the AC, make sure that's on max. Gonna go turn on the radio. We'll put it on some stupid generic channel. I should probably have to blurt this out. Turn that bass up. We see that the lights are nice and bright right now, so we'll go ahead and take the multimeter, put it on the voltage setting of 20 volts, and we're going to look to see roughly 13.8 to 14.1. Ladies and gentlemen, we did it. Yes. So with the radio up, the AC on, the four-ways on, the headlights on, and every bit of power I can turn on this car on, we're at 13.8. Now with everything turned off and the motor just running, we're sitting at 13.9 volts. I call this a success. We've got a used OEM alternator, which is always going to be better than even a new CarQuest. You don't want to do this job twice. Go to car-part.com. Put your year, make, and model in there. It'll tell you local yards and companies that have these parts used, and you can call them, get mileage. And if it's a low mile part, you know, go for it. Man behind the camera. Okay, try to keep this short and sweet. Again, I'm going to summarize. Use Lexus OEM parts, or at least Denso parts. Don't buy CarQuest. Don't buy anything from O'Reilly or AutoZone, Napa. Don't buy those parts. It's not worth it. Rock Auto is good. Car-Part is good for used OEM parts. Recommend that for sure. But we're back on the road again. This is done. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I don't normally make these at least very good. I feel like this one was pretty good. So if you feel that way or this helped you in any way, please, man, give me the like, give me the subscribe. I'll try to get the channel up a little bit better. Got all kinds of content coming, but this is my L-Tune. If you guys want a tour of the car in its current condition, let me know in the comments, and I will give you a full detailed tour of a 2001 Lexus GS430 L-Tuned Edition with 245,000 miles on it. I hope you guys enjoyed. I thank you for watching. See ya.